All right. I'm Betsy Shelton, Communications and Engagement Officer here with Volunteer Iowa, as Tony mentioned. Been on staff for just shy of 3 years now. I have a background in working in government and nonprofits mainly, so just kind of across the board, a multitude of different public relations type positions that I've had in my background. If we could just take a moment when we get started, just so I know who you are too, could everyone introduce themselves and also let me know what program you're with? And maybe share like a win or struggle with your communications.
I can go. This is Felicia Watkins. I work with with YSS out of our Ames office doing the mentoring program in Boone and Story and Hamilton counties. I'm trying to think of a win for communication. I don't know if I can think of one at this moment.
Or a challenge that you have?
Oh.
If you can't think of anything, that's fine. You'll have opportunity to share further as we get along. So
okay, I'll save my turn to speak until later. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, this is Delita Thurnis. I'm the Executive Director of Big Brothers Big Sisters in Johnson County. I am able to attend these maybe twice a year. So this one I put on my calendar, and the reason being is, I certainly feel like communications is critical for absolutely everything we do, recruitment, fundraising, all of that. So when it said effective communication plan, I'm like, oh, yeah, really a plan? I just thought we communicate. So anyway, it intrigued me, and I put this one on my calendar a while ago. So happy to be here and happy to learn.
Great.
I'm Nicole Gisselson. I'm with Bridges Mentoring Program in Mitchell County. And yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how we can communicate about getting our program kind of up and going again.
Okay. Was that everyone that was on?
You know who I am, Betsy, so.
Oh, I know who you are, Jason.
Thank you for helping as much as you have already. So that's what I'll say.
All right, I will get going then. So I do hope that this does help you guys kind of think through a little more how to develop a communications plan. But step one is always to start with how do you communicate with your audiences? What's effective, what works, what doesn't work? And it's really challenging to come up with a communications plan if you don't know what your goal is. So the very first thing that you really want to start with are kind of these steps here on this slide. Define your objectives. What is your goal? I heard Nicole mention she wants to kind of restart the program. So that's a good place to start. But does that mean, needing to recruit more mentors? Just a general community knowledge? What are your goals? What do you want? What story do you want to tell? What do you want to get out of your communications efforts? And who's your audience? Is it just the general public? Is it educators? Is it the business community? Is it elected officials? Sometimes that might be your target audience, depending on what message you're trying to convey. So then from there, kind of developing those clear and concise messages. What is it that you want people to know, your audiences to know about your organization? What are kind of those top 3 to 5 points that you want people to know? And then the next thing is to think about tools and tactics that you can use to share your message. There's a lot of opportunities through social media, through a newsletter, through earned media, general word of mouth. That also counts as a communications tool, although that can sometimes be a little bit harder to measure the effectiveness of. But That's always a good way to get the word out. See. Then also coming up with work plans and timelines. What is, having a written plan is really important too. Who's doing what your time frame is for rolling things out. And then reporting and tracking your efforts. That's always important too, because you can't really know if your messages, your tools and tactics that you're using are being effective if you're not checking to see if those messages are gaining any traction. Right, so moving to how communication support your work is, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who said it just because I don't have everyone's names right in front of me, but somebody did say, that communications are important for every aspect of work. So here are 3 kind of key areas where communications can support your work: increasing the awareness of program within your community, which can lead to increased volunteer recruitment. It also helps with internal morale and team building. I know you guys are all pretty good at communicating during, doing some external work during National Mentoring Month, but you can't just let your community know once a year about what you're doing. It needs to be every single month, regular, consistent messaging and communicating externally. But this helps with your volunteer recruitment, because how can potential future mentors find you if they don't even know that you exist? So you want to get that word out as much as possible. Sorry, I apologize. It looks like Mary added a couple notes in here that I didn't see before we started the presentation. So, she just wanted me to mention the difference between internal and external communication. So, for a lot of you guys, some of you are embedded programs within a different organization. So you need to also make sure you're communicating internally with the organization you're embedded in, so that they understand what your goals are as your mentoring program, and then how you communicate with them and how they share beyond internally, how they're sharing externally what you guys are doing. So keep that in mind, that you're working with the communication staff. If there is somebody on staff focused on communications, hopefully there is, that they are also sharing about the mentoring program and not just the organization as a whole. Any questions so far? All right, just gonna keep moving then on to message development. So, the message development is all about how you tell the story of your organization, your mentoring program. What messages do you think your audience that you've identified will be most compelling? So I'm going to just pause for a couple of minutes and let you guys talk to me about what you think might be a really interesting story to share about your program. Don't everyone speak at once.
I think it's always good for mentors to share their experience in the program. I think that's probably most compelling when trying to recruit other mentors, is seeing someone do it and then having a good experience with it.
Great.
And then I'll just say, Betsy, on my end, I love, I piggyback on what Felicia says, but then I also think about youth voice and think about if you can find a mentee who has had such a great experience also, and it's a heartwarming story just on both sides, that there's a relationship being built, that it's not, I think those are always really great stories for the whole community.
Anyone else?
Well, we tend to have good results when we have that impact kind of thing, whether it's telling the story of what the impact has been, which is giving people that sense of they can make a difference. And then sometimes our story includes some of those results from surveys that we've done with our teachers or our kids or the parents or whoever, that really talks about specific outcomes that we've identified as being what's happened with these matches. And I think people love to hear that it's because that we're always under the impression that we're just a nice organization and you play with kids. And it's more than that. There's so much richness to this and so much positive impact and influence that happens because of that mentor being a part of that child's life. So to tell that kind of impact is really what people want to hear.
Yeah, those are all really great examples. My examples were going to be all the things that you all just said, the mentor match stories. So kind of talking about the mentor and what the mentor's experiences, the success stories of those mentees that have maybe, aged out of the program, what they've moved on to do, what their successes have been. And then again, that data that can tell a story of the impact that your mentoring program has had, whether on, a grade level, a community, just a school district. Just an example that I put in my notes was just, you could say like an increase of 20, this is all just hypothetical, but an increase in 20 more mentors in our program helped raise our reading levels in the 4th grade classroom by X number of grade levels, like by 1.5 grade levels. So something, data that can share that success is really important too. So you also, when you're developing those messages, you have to think about, again, how do you connect the work you're doing in your program to what the audience cares about? So does your target audience, are they most concerned about youth facing risk factors and getting them to enroll in college, helping them get more engaged in their communities? As we know, there is the data that shows that individuals with youth with mentors are more likely to get involved and volunteer in their communities and enroll in college. So, think about those kind of key messages that you can share about your program that you think your target audience wants to hear. So again, think about how your audience can support your work. What it's signing up to serve as a mentor. That's always an actionable item to be communicating about. Obviously, as many of you who are in programs where there is fundraising involved, volunteers often turn into donors. Donors often turn into volunteers. So you can help kind of both sides of things as you're increasing the awareness of your program externally. Can also help with partnership opportunities. Like, think about how maybe you could get local businesses, challenge them to get involved and sign up a certain number of new mentors over a couple of month period. We do that on the volunteering side of things. We have a business challenge where we try to get businesses to compete against each other to track their volunteer hours over a 2-month period. And, whoever has the most gets an award from us. But you could think of something like that within your community and with businesses and other organizations in your community to try and encourage more mentors, because everyone's a little bit competitive. So if you can use that as just one more way to build some partnerships with some external audiences, that's key too. And then again, another thing that's important to share with the general public too, and to keep in the back of your head while you're thinking through this message development, is what are the benefits of volunteering? Data consistently shows that, volunteering, serving as a mentor is good for your mental health. You're giving back to the community. You're supporting the youth in your community, especially those who are facing some risk factors. So those are all important things, questions to be asking yourself and things to be thinking through as you're developing your messages. So leveraging your messengers, who can tell the story of your program, right? So I'm going to just start right off the bat with a question for all of you yet again. If a radio station called you right now and said, I want to interview somebody in your program in 30 minutes live on the air about your mentoring program, who would you have do it? And please speak up and let me know.
I've actually done that.
Good.
I think I would first ask the question, sort of, what is it they're, asking? They just want to hear about our programs. Do they want to hear about impact? What kind of thing? And we have, a number of options to pick from, depending on sort of what the purpose is. And like you talked about earlier, who the audience was.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, again, it's important to be prepared in advance for something like this. It's part of, again, that being proactive with your communications work and planning. So trying to have more than one person who's available and has at least some basic knowledge of your program is really important, because somebody might not be available. I just dealt with this about 2 weeks ago in our office. We got a request for a live Zoom TV interview, and the expert on our staff who would be the best to do the interview was ill. So I had luckily we have some commissioners who are willing to do that, and was able to just reach out and have somebody ready to go within 30 minutes. But there's so many different people involved in your organization that could be that good messenger for it. It could be you, it could be a board chair or board member, a former board member. It could be one of your mentors who's highly engaged, or even a former mentor, or even a former mentee who's been engaged and knowledgeable about your organization. So, again, being prepared for those types of requests is important too. And then if you're trying to push out a story instead of just getting a request, those testimonials and profiles, as mentioned, touched on earlier, talking about the relationship between the mentors and the mentees and what they get out of it, are always really catchy with the media and on social media. So those are, know how to collect information from those messengers, whether it's, I do a little survey where we have people answer questions and turn those into little spotlights that I can use on social media. I can use in my newsletter. I can use as a blog post. So there's ways to collect that information, but those testimonials or profiles, spotlights, whatever you want to call them, about your key messengers are really best at gaining traction with external audiences. All right, and now for the fun part, developing the materials. We've kind of talked about our tactics and tools, who our audience is, how to develop our message. Now, what do we do to get the word out there? So I would encourage everybody to have a one-pager, and it can be one-sided if that's all you've got. Or even just a PowerPoint slide that has basic information about your program and actionable items. So, have some visuals. There's a lot of stock photos that can be used for free. You could use photos that you guys have taken or your organization has from that look like mentoring experiences. Have some graphics, have data on there about the effectiveness of your program, have kind of those key messages, those top 3 to 5 points you want to make about your program, that you want, those messages you want your audiences to know about. And don't forget to include information on how to sign up for your newsletter if you have a newsletter, how to sign up to be a mentor if they're passing this on to somebody else, how to follow you guys on social media. That's an important thing to include as well. And then finally your web address and contact information so people can find more information or contact you if they have questions. I don't know how many of you know about Canva or your organizations know about Canva, but that is a very useful tool for somebody like myself who is not a graphic designer. They have a lot of kind of pre-populated templates that you can use and easily kind of plug and play with images, logos, graphics, text. It's a really great tool. And for nonprofits, their Canva Pro, which is one step up from their basic edition, but also has a lot of extra graphics and tools and design options for you, is free for nonprofits. I don't think that's something a lot of people are aware of. So if you guys don't already have somebody that's in your organization that can design a one-pager flyer brochure type thing for you, sign up for a Canva account. Again, it's free, it's easy. I can use it. And if I can use it, trust me, I think anyone can use it. So I'm not going to show you an example here of, here's a flyer for Iowa Mentor that was created in Canva, so in Canva Pro, actually. So as you can see, this has a lot of information on it. I will admit I did not design this one. So as easy as I'm telling you it is to use, I know I could design this, I just didn't. So I'm going to be just upfront and honest with you about that. But again, it's got kind of the key information about how Iowa Mentor supports mentoring in Iowa, some benefits of being a partner with us, and then on the back side, so this is the front and back of this, so they've got the list of the certified partners and then contact information, how to join, all of, how to follow on social media. So Iowa Mentor has Facebook and YouTube channels, so it hits all those key points that are important to have. Does anyone have any questions? Comments, thoughts? Do you all have one-pagers or some sort of informational, either digital or hard copy version about your program that's easily shareable if somebody asks you for something? Not sure if I should take the silence as yeses or nos.
I was gonna say we have multiple pages and probably need to work on getting things into just one simple document.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's something to think about too, is, maybe 15 years ago, people would take more time to read more if it's a multiple page document. But I do feel like with our social media, phone, online universe that we're all living in, people's attention spans are a lot shorter. So the more quickly you can make your point and more effectively and efficiently you can make your point, I think the more impact it will have. So, one thing I really like about this flyer is we've got the logo at the top, but then the next thing on here is the mission of the organization. So mission should be front and center to almost everything that you guys do. And, this really does demonstrate that. So, yep. So I would recommend if you can get to just a one pager or a half, Jason with Future Ready Iowa has a half page front. It's the size of a half page and it's front and back that tells the information of his program as well. So, you can pare it down, but it's important to just have something quick and simple. All right, now to everybody's favorite, social media. And I will be, again, upfront and honest. I don't want anyone to think I'm like the social media expert. I have to use it for my job. I often tell people I have a hate-hate relationship with social media, but I also know it's a very effective way to stay connected to our audience. I think my hate relationship is more from the personal aspect of it and kind of how it's changed so much over the last several years. But I struggle with kind of the changes of how their algorithms all work too, but that's me getting way into the weeds here, and I'll spare you all from that. But I do know social media is free for the most part. It is a very easy way to get your message out there and shared. This is where it's not as easy to get the word out as it used to be, because they have, some of the social media platforms are trying to monetize anything that comes from a business page. So that has become a little bit more of a challenge, but there are ways to kind of break through that, work around it with minimal to no expense. So, one way to try and keep, especially with Facebook, to break through their algorithm so that your posts are seen consistently is posting regularly. That is something Facebook really likes you to do. So if you're consistently posting something 2 to 3 times a week, that is fantastic. Admittedly, if you look at the Volunteer Iowa Facebook page, it is not 2 to 3 times a week. I am not as consistent as I should be with it. And I know that. I'm aware that that is something I need to work on, and just where we're at right now. But images with graphics, posts with images and graphics, photos, videos, they always gain the most attention, and the more likes and shares your posts are getting, the more people are going to see it, even if they're following you. Again, that funky algorithm, Facebook doesn't always show everybody everything. So just the more visually appealing posts tend to get more attention with the liking and the sharing. And then you can look for different opportunities for creating content. So, that's one of those things with keeping up with social media and those 2 to 3 times a week posts is, how do you find enough information to share out consistently? So, this is something you could ask your mentors and mentees to maybe come up with the plan. It might be an activity that you recommend that they do, is plan out some fun social media posts, right? They can tell their story through social media. You can do the spotlights again of board members, mentors, mentees, your match stories. You can share that stuff on social media. And again, photos while mentors and mentees are meeting or actively working together. They can take photos, create graphics, do that, even create fun videos that can be shared. Use those volunteers that you already have to help you build that social media feed and that content. How many of you guys already have your own social media pages, not maybe the organization you're embedded in, but for your specific mentoring program?
Yeah, I would just mention that, about 3 years ago, we really saw the value in, well, a lot of it social media. And fortunately, we are in Iowa City. But a thing that I would just put out there is, for folks that are a little slim on their resources and can't invest in an actual position, it's a great internship opportunity for college students or young people, because they love doing that and they're really savvy and smart at it. So 3 years ago, we started out with an unpaid intern, and they manage our social media. Didn't cost us a thing. Then we went into investing into Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a management platform, so you can kind of create your content and then schedule it to go out across all your platforms. Well worth that investment as well. And now we are at the point now that we have a part-time marketing event person, and that's their primary job, is to create all that content and manage our social media. So I think it's well worth it, just from my perspective.
Yep, that's a great point. Interns can often be really, because, interns are often younger people who do spend a lot of time on social media. So, and it helps them gain some experience as well. You may also have somebody who's already involved in your organization in some capacity who may manage their social media at their job, and ask them to spend another hour or two as a volunteer for your organization, helping with your social media. That's always or should be an easy ask for somebody that's maybe already doing it professionally and is an expert in the field or has knowledge in social media. Does anyone else have their own social media account? All right. Well, if you don't already, again, that might be something to think about. It is free to sign up for all of those. Each social media platform kind of has a slightly different audience. I mean, you can Google, like if you know you're trying to reach an audience of like 40 to 70-year-old professionals, Facebook's going to be more likely to reach that right audience. It's used more with that demographic. Or if you're wanting to get like college students, they are more likely to use Snapchat and TikTok. And I can tell you, I have almost zero knowledge of Snapchat and TikTok, so that's why I haven't mentioned them here. But those can also be another place where you can gain a following, share out information. You mentioned Hootsuite. That is one way. They do have a free option where you can use it to do, I think it's schedule out up to 5 posts in advance through the free version of Hootsuite. And also Meta is the umbrella organization for Facebook and Instagram, and they have a business suite where you can schedule posts in advance there too. Another note about Canva Pro, that graphic design tool I mentioned earlier that's free for nonprofits. When you have the Pro version, you can link it directly to social media accounts, and you can design a social media post in Canva and post it directly. You can schedule it and post it directly through Canva. So that's another tool you could use as well that's free. Things you can share on social media, aside from telling the story of your organization, but action items, consistently share links to your mentor application and how people can sign up to mentor, announce events. I always try to remind people in every post, link to your website or maybe another organization's site if you're trying to do like some sort of challenge or something, but drive traffic to your website through social media. That's a really, again, easy way to get people to click and find more information. Just keep sharing your website, because you can post little snippets of things here and there, but your website's always going to have more information, probably where you have your mentor application for people to sign up. But I always remind people to add a website link to your social media posts. All right. Just some important things to note about social media or keep in mind when you're using it. Use hashtags. That's a really good way for people to find information, especially on Twitter and Instagram. You can search by hashtags, follow hashtags. Mentor National has a great communications toolkit, and they have monthly themes with hashtags, and then they have a different message campaigns with hashtags that you can use as well. You could create your own. That's another way for people to be able to find you. Grow your social media following by tagging and linking other organizations. So again, those, whether it's Iowa Mentor, Mentor National, the organization you're embedded in, a partner mentor organization, tagging other organizations and sharing their posts when it's got messages that might be important for your audience. that will also help you grow your social media following as well. If you're not already, if you have your own social media pages, please be sure to follow IO Mentor and Mentor National. Again, it's an easy way you can share out the posts that we put up. That's a way to have content out there that you don't have to create yourself. One thing that I often tell people, because social media can be really daunting sometimes, but you don't have to create every new post yourself. Not everything has to be new and unique. Share the information that we're posting, that Mentor National is posting, that other mentoring programs are posting. Also, you can get good ideas from following other pages. I do that myself a lot because sometimes I'm just not I'm not a very creative thinker, so sometimes I get really good ideas of creative posts from following other organizations. So, and then that's kind of that last piece, is following other community organizations and mentoring programs. Again, that helps build your audience, your social media following. And here's a couple sample social media posts that I just pulled. One from Iowa Mentor from our Excellence in Mentoring Awards ceremony. As you can see, we've got an image here. We linked to our website that has the profiles of the Excellence in Mentoring awardees from this year. And then we've used a hashtag here of Mentoring Amplifies, which is one that Mentor National is using regularly. And then this other post here is from Mentor National in their partnership with the NFL. So you can see, again, they've tagged some partner organizations in here. They've used an image with a quote, and they've used a hashtag. So they kind of checked off all those main points that I hit on to think about when you're creating social media content. All right. I feel like I just dumped a whole bunch of social media information on you guys. Do you have any questions about that?
Thanks, Betsy. I just wanted to just say here in the chat that QR codes are back, is what Delita was saying, and that's a good thing to use too, is to use the QR codes, and they're using those to print out to use a lot of particular print materials.
Yeah,
which is good stuff.
It's a good reminder, Tony. We actually, with some of our AmeriCorps materials that we've been creating at Volunteer Iowa, we're putting, especially in terms of like college fairs, when we're trying to share information with college students, we have QR codes on all of our one-pagers where a student can just scan the QR code and it goes right to our like AmeriCorps listings page, or goes to our AmeriCorps information page, depending on which flyer it is. But those are very easy to generate in Canva if you use Canva and other graphic design tools too. So that is a good point. Add those QR codes to flyers, especially any hard copy of anything, so someone can easily just scan it and get to your website. Any other comments, questions? Feel free to call me out on not being great on our social media stuff. We do have an AmeriCorps Vista who does the Iowa Mentor social media account, the Facebook page. So she does a great job, and that's one less thing I have to think about. So Iowa Mentor has a much more robust Facebook feed than Volunteer Iowa. So I just don't want to be called a hypocrite because I own my not being great on social media. So, all right, moving along. So I touched on this kind of towards the beginning, how to make sure that what you're doing to try to communicate with your audience is being effective, that, use data to measure that. So that can really help you kind of key in to see what's working and not working. So again, most of the social media platforms have built-in tools, so you can analyze the engagement of posts. You can obviously see if you have like an increase or decrease in followers. It's Meta, again, that like umbrella organization for Facebook and Instagram. They have all sorts of, I mean, you can get really in the weeds on some of the engagement of those posts. Google Analytics is another thing that's useful if you have a website that measures your website engagement levels, click rates, bounce rates. Again, that's way in the weeds for a lot of people, but if you want to know if your website is being effective, if you have information that is resonating with people, it's just another way to kind of check and see how long people are looking at different web pages, if they're visiting them at all. Google Analytics, again, that's another one you can get way in the weeds. They have a lot of information on there, but it is important to at least know, like, is your website actually have the right information on it? So it's an important tool to use as well if you have your own website. Again, the digital media platforms, I'll touch on digital media here in a second, but if you do like an electronic newsletter, all those digital media platforms will share those open and click rates, who's opening the message, how often they're clicking on the links. And then again, you can think about how that information can really help you guide future communications planning. So, you know, make sure you're sharing that with others in your organization too, to think about what changes you might want to consider. And we're kind of going through, well, you've probably seen Iowa Mentor went through a website redesign last year. I apologize, time just all runs together anymore. I think we did it last year. I'm in the middle of it with Volunteer Iowa now. So I'm actually using our Google Analytics to kind of guide our redesign. And we did that a little bit too with the Iowa Mentor website, because, you know, it's just, if we don't have information that people are even looking at, that's not good information to be having on our website. So, all right. Any questions about that? And I know if you guys don't have dedicated communication staff, it can seem really overwhelming, and you don't have to do all of these things. They're just all things to think about when you're developing your communications plan. All right, and here's a quick example of just a Facebook post analytics. So this I pulled from our Meta platform, business platform. So you can see here's an Iowa Mentor post, and it shows that it reached 113 people organically, because we didn't pay for this. We had 4 reactions, 1 share. So, you know, this is actually a pretty good number of people reached for one of our Iowa Mentor posts. So another thing I did not mention, you can boost a post on Facebook and Instagram in particular for a minimal amount. So if you're really starting up a Facebook page or Instagram page and you're not getting any followers, even with linking to your website, connecting to other organizations, tagging other people, using or tagging other organizations, using hashtags, and just not building your audience, you could boost a post for, like, I think this one I did check, and I think for $10 it was going to boost it, so it kind of breaks through that algorithm so more people see it. And it would be like over a 5-day period, and the estimated reach was going to be like 500 people. So, you know, you can get a decent amount of bang for your buck if you just boost a post. I wouldn't even get into paid ads, but this is an easy way to just, again, get a little more traction if you're trying to build your audience. All right, digital and earned media. I know I'm getting close on time here, so I'll just keep plugging through here. So digital media, as I just touched on, newsletters. I don't know if you guys, any of your programs do a monthly or even a quarterly newsletter. It doesn't have to be anything super in depth. I know you guys probably all get the Iowa Mentor newsletter. And that's just a couple of stories every month, but kind of shares key points those key messages that we want our followers to know. So our key audience to know about. including action items in there again is another great opportunity to try and get people to sign up, asking people to share the newsletter. That's a pretty simple action item. Attending your events that you might be holding. It's just those little updates being consistent in how you're getting that out there can be useful too. And again, you know, as I said earlier, don't feel like you need to recreate the wheel every single time you've got something different. You can use similar content in social media posts, in a newsletter article, even in an earned media, which I'll touch on right now. But these stories can all be repurposed into multiple different ways. So it's not like every single communications tool you use has to be something new and unique. We talked about the importance of human interest stories with earned media, which earned media can be just a story that's in a local paper, radio interview counts as earned media. It's anything that's not paid for, basically letter to the editor, an opinion piece. Those are all considered earned media. Anything that's really just not paid advertising. Things you can consider, again, those match stories, your spotlights of current and former mentors and mentees, events. I know several of these of the mentor programs across the state are in small towns. I grew up in a town of 1,500 people, and the local newspaper was always wanting content submitted to them because, you know, it's a small town. There's honestly so much you can tell in so many stories you can tell in a small town. So if you're in a small town, write up a little blurb about your program or a really impactful match and submit it to your local newspaper. Write a letter to the editor, regardless of the size of your community, talking about or having a mentor, you know, write a letter to the editor about why they mentor, why the mentoring program helps the community. Again, just it can be short. Couple of paragraphs can count as a letter to the editor or an article submitted to a newspaper. So just really another effective way to get the word out there. So since we're a little short on time, I was going to have us really think about some story ideas, but I'm going to try and get through my presentation. If we have a couple minutes at the end, we might talk about some story ideas at the end of the presentation. So anyone have any questions or tips on submitting information to like a local newspaper or radio station that have been effective? All right, I'll just keep going on because I don't want us to run over our 3 o'clock time. So branding. So here's one more thing to think about when you're building out some of your communications tools is, you know, not only using your program or the organization you're embedded in branding, but also make sure you're branding with the Iowa Mentor logo as well. Especially those digital and printed flyers that links you to a larger movement, both within the state and nationally. There's a reason why we changed our brand as Iowa Mentor to align with Mentor National so that we were clearly aligned with them. Also makes it really easy to, when you're sharing the information from us or Mentor National, it's easy for people to identify how we're all tied together if you're branding with our logos. Let's see, and if you don't already have the digital files of our Iowa Mentor logo, let us know. You can contact me, Mary, Tony, or even Jason. We have both this horizontal version here. We have a stacked version too, which sometimes just works better with design. Well, the one up in the corner you can see here is the stacked version. Sometimes that just fits better in design, but we also have it in different formats depending on what design tools are being used. So, and then it's also helpful because Mentor National, they have a theme every month on mentoring where they have their own graphics that they develop. So here's some examples of some of the mentoring message campaigns that they have had, and then some of their monthly mentoring themes here as well. And again, they develop a lot of tools that are branded with their logos. You can add yours, you can add ours, social media posts that are easy to share out. And there's the website there at the bottom where you can find all that information. Again, you don't have to create everything from scratch. There's a lot of stuff that's already available to you that people are focused on creating. So saves you a little bit of time and effort as well. So use what's already out there for you. All right, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tony to talk about technical assistance.
Hey there. So I wanted to say this. Thanks so much, Betsy, for all of the information. I mean, it's amazing at how much you think you can do, right? And then when it's time to actually put things into action, you wish you had more time. And, you know, a lot of times in media, we can be reactive and we forget that we could be proactive if we had a written plan. So this is my plug for all of you on the call that you don't have to do it alone, that Iowa Mentor has no cost technical assistance by you just hovering over the link down there at the bottom of the screen. And you can just apply for technical assistance completely free to you. And Mary or I, Mary or I can come and give you some information that's already been successful for other mentoring programs, whether those people are connected to Mentor National, but all of them are part of the National Mentoring Resource Center, so the NMRC. And so this is not just for a written communication plan, which a written communication plan is a part of the effective elements of practice for mentoring. So if you need technical assistance, I'm happy to stay on the call a little longer to walk you through hitting these links for you to just go ahead and apply for no cost technical assistance for your youth mentoring program. It can be for written communication, it can be for recruiting, it can be for whatever you need. But I just think that sometimes we don't tell our story enough, or sometimes we think that we're going to get around to doing certain things that our program needs, and we forget that we have help and other documentation that other people have made, that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to ask for assistance. So that's my plug for you to ask for technical assistance. And I'm going to hang on here after the call if you guys want to walk through the pages together.
And I'm just going to click over to this last slide here that's just got some additional resources too. So, yeah, I'm going to just end real quick with that point of writing it down. Like, it's great to have a plan in your head of how you want to, you know, who your audiences are, what tools you want to use for communication, what your messages are going to be to the targeted audiences. But sometimes just writing it down and having just a basic, I have one that's a very basic, like in a Word document where I just have each month in a table format and kind of what our monthly message themes are for Volunteer Iowa as a whole. So I know kind of what's guiding me every month. And I can refer back to that if I'm ever just kind of at a loss for what direction I need to go this month and what story am I trying to tell this month. Because sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in all the other little stuff and forgetting what that bigger message is that we have thought through, planned, what we want to share out. So in some capacity, I really strongly recommend you have some form of written version of a communications plan that you update every 6 months to a year. And again, the technical assistance resources would be very helpful with that.
Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate all of your input and all the great work that you do across the state. Again, I'm happy to hang out on the call if you guys need to, apply for technical assistance, or I can definitely make sure that this gets in the newsletter so that you guys can do that. Otherwise, have a wonderful afternoon.
Yeah, and if anyone has questions for me or follow-up information that you want, or just kind of brainstorm through things, Tony and Mary can share my contact information as well. I'm happy to help out as much as possible. If you just want somebody to bounce ideas off of, maybe after you've gone through the technical assistance.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks.